Hello and a very warm welcome to Spotlight America TV. I'm Akhtar Khan. You know, I've spent the majority of my adult working life sort of jumping on and off planes, and the one thing that's left a lasting impression on me is just how beautiful, stunning and amazing the world looks from 35,000 feet. We spend so much of our time thinking about ourselves that many of us ignore the fact that actually we're abusing our environment. So what if a few trees are knocked down? There are billions more. So what if some fish die in the rivers and the oceans? Plenty more, right? Wrong. I don't want to sound like the merchant of doom and gloom, although I'm sorely tempted, but want to make you realize just exactly this is a serious situation that we're in. Thanks to my travels and experiences with different countries and cultures, I'm very much an advocate and proponent of greener and more eco-friendly policies. It's just common sense. So rather than talking about how to improve the environment, fleshing out the many problems, I want to instead touch upon the geopolitical aspects and highlight some of the issues ahead of the developed and developing nations. At the heart of the environment debate are issues such as global warming and trying to cut back on pollution, etc. Now all that lies with economic power, inevitably global dominance. Conspiracy theories aside, do you seriously think we went to war in the Gulf not once but twice because it was the right thing to do? No. Control of the world's raw materials, in this case oil, was crucial. Let me explain why. Industrialized nations have been utilizing the Earth's raw materials at an alarming rate over the many decades. Over the last 20 years, countries such as China and India, closer to home Brazil, are fast threatening to usurp many countries in the West as an economic force to be reckoned with. In many cases, China has already done that. The key to that strategy is economic growth, but at what price not only to the world, but future generations? While we enjoy cheap imported goods from third world countries, just remember that we are actually contributing towards destroying our planet vis-à-vis industrial growth and productivity in those countries. If our demand for cheap goods was reduced, then it would slow production and productivity, in turn, which means fewer raw materials being utilized and slower production. But it's not that simple, because we live in a global economy, and whatever happens in China to an extent will eventually impact us here in the United States. How? Let me explain. The Chinese invest in American businesses and Americans invest in Chinese businesses. So change in respective economies will have an impact on us here in the United States. In fact, we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. So what do? Well, we can't stop countries like China and India from developing, albeit at an alarming rate. No. They have as much right as we have in the West to develop, and for their people to prosper and reap the benefits as we have for many years. But we have to be careful when preaching to others about how to protect the planet and employ more eco-friendly methods of industrial development. For example, did you know the United States consumes 1/3 of the world's total output? In other words, we absorb and utilize 33% of the world's goods and services, and we're only 5% of the world's population, whereas India and China combined make up for well over 30% of the world's population. We can't continue consuming at this rate. We are at a final, or rather say we have finite resources. It's just political, it's not politically feasible or right to do so. That said, I don't want to bash America with the economic stick. Other countries like Brazil are destroying swathes of ancient and prehistoric rainforest, clearing the way for agriculture such as production of soybeans. Many other countries, developed and developing, can be accused of adding to the eco-disaster as well. How? Well, there's the emission of toxic gases and fumes from industrial plants, not to mention the illegal dumping of chemical and biohazardous waste in our oceans, rivers and lakes. Then there's the oil spills, the landfills, disposal of nuclear waste. Shall I go on? We know what the cause is, who's doing what, the impact on our environment, and what needs to be done. Yes, we can all get together and discuss measures and timelines to reduce pollution and provide cleaner, more efficient energy sources for the future. Yes, we can all sign treaties and pat ourselves on the back for reaching certain targets, blame one another for polluting the planet, etc. But until we become more proactive about the environment rather than paying lip service, and here I mean real tangible measures, then we potentially avoid natural disasters such as Hurricane Sandy, tsunamis, destruction of natural flora and fauna, and so on. Let me be clear. Once again, I'm in no way singling out the United States, but isn't it important for us to lead by example? In his recent State of the Union address, the President came together and said that Congress should rather come together to solve the environmental problem facing America. He added if the politicians couldn't agree on a solution, he would step in and force the issue, in particular, speeding up the transition to more sustainable sources of energy. He also pointed to finding a more market-based solution to the problem. But one area he may face fierce opposition, not from the GOP, but the electorate themselves. The President stated that he would cut red tape and speed up new oil and gas permits. That in the face of thousands who marched on Capitol Hill recently in protest against the building of a $5.3 billion pipeline that would effectively transport 830,000 barrels of oil per day from Alberta in Canada to the Gulf Coast. So the President is faced with a dilemma. Does he live up to his inaugural pledges to protect the environment, or listen to those who say the pipeline could actually create thousands of much-needed jobs? It would also mean America becoming less dependent on oil from imports from places such as the Middle East. Look, at the end of the day, the US has certain obligations to its electorate, the planet, and the near 7 billion people around the world, to not overconsume, lead by example, and make sure it and other countries are not abusing or flaunting the environmental agreements reached. That's hard to do if we carry on the way we are. We can't be seen as being duplicitous. Yes, growth and development is important, as well as prosperity, but at what cost? We need to speed up the transition to alternative energy sources and stop competing with powers like China to make a grab for the last remaining raw materials, as we have in continents like Africa. I don't want to sound like some tree-hugging liberal, but we've been given this beautiful planet at the rate we're going at right now. We really are racing towards extinction. Don't take my word for it, just listen to the President of the United States. As always, I'd like to hear from you. What do you think the current administration should do on this subject? Also, if you've come across topics you'd like us to cover on some of the stories you've seen in the news that's caught your eye, then you can send us an email at spotlightAmericaTV@gmail.com. You can also follow me on Twitter. That's coming up on your screens right now. But for now, from me, Akhtar Khan, and the rest of the team here on the show, goodbye, and thanks for watching.